I was standing in our kitchen washing blood off my hands when I realized everything I thought I knew about control was about to be tested. The water ran pink, then clear, but my fingers wouldn't stop shaking. Not from fear, from the kind of rage that makes your vision narrow and your heartbeat slow, the way it did in Kandahar before a mission went sideways. Behind me, Eliza sat on the couch with an ice pack pressed against her swollen cheek, her other hand resting on her 7-month pregnant belly. She hadn't said a word in 20 minutes. Neither had I. Because what do you say when you come home and find your fiancé bleeding on the floor, your front door kicked in, and the man who did it already gone? Hit like, subscribe for more betrayal stories, and comment your city or country. 3 hours earlier, I'd been at the hardware store picking up paint for the nursery. Eliza wanted soft yellow walls. Something cheerful, she'd said. Something hopeful. I'd smiled and kissed her forehead and told her I'd be back in an hour. I'd been gone 90 minutes. 90 minutes was all it took for Adrian Voss, her ex-boyfriend from 5 years ago, to break into our home and put his hands on her. When I pulled into the driveway, I knew something was wrong. The front door was open. Not just unlocked. Open. Hanging crooked on one hinge like someone had kicked it with everything they had. My SEAL training kicked in before my brain caught up. I dropped the paint cans in the driveway and moved fast but quiet through the doorway, scanning left and right, checking corners, listening for movement. That's when I saw her. Eliza was on the living room floor, curled on her side, crying so hard she couldn't breathe. Her lip was split. Blood streaked down her chin. Her shirt was torn at the shoulder. And her eyes, God, her eyes looked like she'd seen something that broke her. I dropped to my knees beside her, hands hovering over her like I was afraid I'd hurt her more if I touched her. Eliza, baby, look at me. Are you okay? Is the baby okay? She flinched when I reached for her face. Flinched. From me. That's when something inside me cracked. She finally met my eyes. And through the tears, she whispered 2 words that changed everything. It was Adrian. Adrian Voss. The name I'd heard maybe twice in the 3 years we'd been together. The ex-boyfriend, she said, was ancient history. The guy she'd dated in college who'd moved to another state and never looked back. Except apparently, he had looked back. And he'd been watching. I helped her onto the couch, checked her over with the kind of focus I used to check injured teammates in the field. No broken bones. Baby was moving. She felt him kick while I held my hand against her stomach. But her face was already swelling, and I knew we needed to get her to a hospital. She grabbed my wrist before I could pull out my phone. Hunter, please don't call the police. I stared at her. What? Please. Just don't. Not yet. Eliza, he broke into our house. He put his hands on you. You're pregnant. We're calling the cops. And we're going to the ER. This isn't up for debate. But she was shaking her head, tears streaming faster now, and her voice came out broken and desperate. You don't understand. If you get involved, if you do something stupid, he'll make it worse. He always makes it worse. That sentence hit me harder than any punch I'd ever taken in training. Always. Like this wasn't the first time. Like she'd been carrying something heavy and secret for years, and I'd been too blind to see it. I sat back on my heels, trying to keep my voice steady. How long has he been bothering you? She looked away. Didn't answer. Eliza. How long? 6 months, she whispered. Maybe longer. I don't know. 6 months. We'd been engaged for 8. She'd been pregnant for 7. And for 6 of those months, Adrian had been circling our life like a shark, and she'd never said a word. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew you'd do exactly what you're thinking about doing right now. Her voice cracked. I know that look, Hunter. I've seen it before. You're not just angry. You're planning. And I can't lose you because you did something that lands you in prison. She wasn't wrong. I was planning. My mind was already running through scenarios where Adrian lived, where he worked, how easy it would be to make him disappear. But I wasn't some reckless kid. I was a trained Navy SEAL. I knew how to be patient. I knew how to wait for the right moment. And I knew how to make sure no one ever saw me coming. I pulled out my phone and called my buddy Dominic, off-duty cop, good guy, someone I trusted. He arrived 20 minutes later and took photos of everything. The busted door, Eliza's face, the scratches on her arms where Adrian had grabbed her. Dominic's jaw tightened when he saw her, but he stayed professional. Wrote everything down. Told us to file a report in the morning and get a restraining order started. But when Dominic pulled me aside in the driveway, his voice dropped low. "Hunter, I know what you're thinking. Don't. Let the system handle this." I didn't answer, because we both knew the system didn't handle guys like Adrian. Guys who stalked their exes. Guys who put pregnant women in the hospital. Guys who walked away smiling because they knew no one could stop them. After Dominic left, I boarded up the front door, checked every window, every lock, every entry point. Eliza sat on the couch the whole time, staring at nothing. When I finally sat down beside her, she leaned into me and whispered, "I'm sorry." "Don't," I said. "Don't apologize for him." But she kept talking, voice hollow and distant. "He used to text me. At first it was just weird stuff, asking how I was, saying he missed me. Then it got worse. He started showing up places. The grocery store, my doctor's office. He knew where I'd be before I did." My hands curled into fists. "And you didn't think I needed to know that?" "I thought if I ignored him, he'd stop. I thought if I didn't react, he'd get bored and move on." She looked up at me, eyes red and swollen. "I didn't want you to get hurt because of my past." I pulled her close, pressed my lips against her hair, and said the only thing I could. "No one's getting hurt except him." She pulled back, searching my face. "Hunter, promise me you won't do anything crazy." I looked her straight in the eye and lied. "I promise." That night, after Eliza finally fell asleep with her head on my chest, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed once. A text from an unknown number. She was always mine. "Stay out of this, or next time, I won't stop at her face." I read it 3 times. Memorized the number. Took a screenshot. Then I texted my old SEAL teammate Logan. Just 2 words. "I need you." Because Adrian Voss had just made the worst mistake of his life. He thought he was dealing with some regular guy. Some civilian who'd call the cops and hope for the best. But I wasn't regular. I wasn't civilian. And I didn't hope for anything. I made things happen. The next morning, Eliza moved through the house like a ghost. She showered, changed into fresh clothes, made coffee she didn't drink. Her face was worse than the night before. Purple bruises bloomed across her cheekbone, her lips swollen and split down the middle. Every time I looked at her, something dark and cold settled deeper into my chest. I called in sick to work. Told them I had a family emergency. Not a lie. Logan showed up at 9 with breakfast neither of us touched. He took one look at Eliza's face, and his expression went stone cold. Logan had been my swim buddy through Bud's training, my teammate through 2 deployments. He knew what I was capable of when someone crossed a line. "Talk to me," Logan said quietly once we stepped outside. I handed him my phone. Showed him the text from Adrian. Showed him the photos Dominic took. Told him everything Eliza had finally admitted after I'd spent half the night asking gentle questions while she cried against my shoulder. Adrian Voss wasn't just some jealous ex. He'd been systematically terrorizing her for months. It started 8 months ago with a friend request on social media. Eliza ignored it. Then came the emails. Long, rambling messages about how much he missed her, how they were meant to be together, how no one would ever love her the way he did. She blocked him. He created new accounts. Different names. Different photos. Always the same words. Then he started showing up. At the grocery store where she shopped every Saturday morning. At her prenatal yoga class. Outside her favorite coffee shop. He never approached her directly. Just watched. Let her see him watching. Let her know he knew exactly where she'd be. "Why didn't she come to you sooner?" Logan asked. She thought she could handle it. Thought if she ignored him, he'd lose interest. I stared at the boarded-up front door. She didn't want me to do something stupid. Something stupid like what we're about to do. I looked at him. "I didn't ask you here to stop me." "I know. I'm not here to stop you." Logan crossed his arms. "I'm here to make sure you do it smart." "What's the plan?" That's when I told him what I'd been thinking about all night. We weren't going to hunt Adrian down and beat him senseless. That's what he'd expect. That's what guys like me were supposed to do. Lose control, catch a charge, prove we're just as violent as him. No, we were going to do something better. We were going to watch him the way he'd been watching Eliza. Learn his patterns. Document everything. Build a case so airtight that when we finally moved, he wouldn't see it coming until it was too late. Counter-surveillance, Logan said. You want to turn the tables. Exactly. Logan pulled out his phone and started making notes. We'll need equipment. Cameras. Tracking. I've still got contacts who owe me favors. How deep do you want to go? As deep as it takes. Inside, Eliza was sitting at the kitchen table staring at the restraining order paperwork Dominic had left. Her hands shook every time she tried to pick up the pen. I sat down across from her. You don't have to do this alone. I'll go with you to file it. It won't stop him, she whispered. A piece of paper won't stop Adrian. Nothing stops Adrian. Then we'll stop him another way. She looked up at me, fear and exhaustion written across every line of her face. Hunter, I need to tell you something. About why he's like this. About why he thinks he still has a claim on me. I waited. Let her find the words. When we were together in college, it wasn't healthy. I didn't see it then. I was young and stupid, and I thought love was supposed to feel intense and consuming. Her voice cracked. He was obsessive from the start. Jealous. Controlling. He needed to know where I was every second. Who I was with. What I was doing. If I didn't text back fast enough, he'd show up wherever I was. I kept my voice level. Did he hurt you back then? She nodded slowly. Not at first. At first it was just mind games. Making me feel crazy. Telling me I was overreacting when I got upset. Then it escalated. He'd grab my arm too hard. Shove me during arguments. Once, he threw my phone across the room and it shattered because I'd been texting a guy from my study group. She wiped tears from her cheeks. I finally broke up with him senior year. He showed up at my apartment every day for 3 months. Left letters. Gifts. Showed up crying, begging, threatening to hurt himself if I didn't take him back. Jesus, Eliza. I moved to another city after graduation. Changed my number. Blocked him everywhere. For 4 years, I didn't hear from him. I thought I was free. She looked at me with hollow eyes. Then I met you, and everything was good. Everything was normal and safe and real. I thought that part of my life was over. When did he find you again? Right after we got engaged. I posted a photo of my ring on social media. Stupid. So stupid. I should have known better. Her hands curled into fists. 3 days later, he sent me a message congratulating me. Said he was happy I'd found someone. It felt wrong, but I thought maybe he'd moved on. Maybe he was different now. He wasn't. No. A week later, he was outside the yoga studio, just standing there, smiling, like running into me was some happy coincidence. She took a shaky breath. It got worse after I got pregnant. Like the baby made him angrier. More desperate. He started saying the baby should have been his. That I stole his future. That you stole me from him. I reached across the table and took her hand. None of this is your fault. You know that, right? I brought him into our life. No. He forced his way in. That's what stalkers do. I squeezed her fingers gently. But he made a mistake yesterday. He left evidence. He escalated to violence. And now we have legal grounds to bury him. Her phone buzzed on the table. Both of us froze. She picked it up with trembling hands, and I watched the color drain from her face. What is it? She turned the screen toward me. A text from an unknown number. Just a photo. A picture of our house taken from across the street. Taken this morning. Logan's truck was in the driveway. The timestamp read 8:47 a.m., less than an hour ago. Logan appeared in the doorway. He'd seen it too. He's still watching. I stood up slowly, walked to the front window, and looked out at the street. Nothing obvious. No cars idling. No one standing around. But Adrian was out there somewhere. Close enough to photograph us. Close enough to let us know he wasn't afraid. Change of plans, I said quietly. We're not waiting to build a case. We're moving now. Logan nodded. What do you need? Call Dominic. Tell him we need patrol cars on this street today. then start checking traffic cameras and security footage from neighboring houses. Adrian drove here this morning. That means we can track his vehicle. I turned to Eliza. Pack a bag. You're staying with your sister Morgan until this is over. I'm not leaving you. Yes, you are. He's escalating. That photo is a threat. He's telling us he can get to you anytime he wants. I'm not giving him that chance. She stood up, both hands on her belly, and for the first time since yesterday, I saw anger flash in her eyes instead of fear. This is my fight too, Hunter. I know. But right now, your job is to keep our babies safe. Let me do what I'm trained to do. She stared at me for a long moment, then finally nodded. Promise me you'll be careful. I kissed her forehead. I promise. But we both knew I was lying again, because careful wasn't going to cut it anymore. Adrian had drawn a line, and now I was going to erase him from our lives, legally, cleanly, and completely. After Eliza left with Logan to go to Morgan's place across town, I sat alone in the quiet house and opened my laptop. Started searching. Adrian Voss wasn't hard to find. He had a landscaping business on the south side of town. Posted his work on social media. Shared his schedule. Stupid. My phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. Got patrol set up. Also ran Adrian's name. He's got priors. Assault charge from 6 years ago. Dismissed. Restraining order from an ex in Colorado. Violated it twice. Charges dropped both times. So Adrian had done this before, and he'd gotten away with it. That ended now. I texted back, I need everything you have on him. Everything. 3 dots appeared. Then, Hunter, don't do anything I can't cover for. I didn't respond, because Dominic already knew I was past the point of asking permission. By late afternoon, I had Adrian's entire life mapped out on my laptop screen. Work schedule, home address, favorite bars, gym membership. The guy wasn't just careless, he was arrogant. He genuinely believed no one would come after him because he'd gotten away with this before. Logan returned from dropping Eliza at Morgan's and found me sitting in the dark living room, surrounded by printouts and notes. He didn't say anything, just pulled up a chair and started reading over my shoulder. He works a landscaping route every Tuesday and Thursday on the north side. I said, pointing at the screen. Residential clients. Stays at each house 45 minutes to an hour. He's predictable. Predictable is good. What else? Dominic sent over his record. The assault charge from 6 years ago. That was his girlfriend at the time. She dropped the charges after Adrian showed up at her apartment with flowers and apologies. Classic abuser playbook. I pulled up another file. The restraining order in Colorado was from a different woman. He violated it twice. Once by showing up at her workplace, once by sending gifts to her parents' house. Both times, she refused to press charges because he convinced her it was romantic, not threatening. Logan's jaw tightened. So he's done this at least twice before Eliza. At least. Who knows how many others didn't report it. I closed the laptop and leaned back. He's escalating with Eliza because she's the one who got away. She moved cities, changed her life, found someone new, got engaged, got pregnant. Everything he thinks belongs to him, she built without him. That's why he snapped yesterday. Yeah, seeing her pregnant was the breaking point. In his twisted mind, that baby should have been his. I rubbed my eyes, exhaustion creeping in. I need to know how he's tracking her movements. He knew she'd be home alone yesterday. He knew what time I'd be gone. That's not luck. Logan pulled out his phone. Could be stalkerware on her phone. Could be a tracker on her car. Could be hacked into your home security if you have any. We don't have security. Didn't think we needed it. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent years protecting strangers in war zones and never thought to protect my own home. We'll sweep everything. Her phone, her car, the house. If he planted something, we'll find it. Logan stood up. I've got gear in my truck. Let's start now. For the next 3 hours, we turned into the investigators Adrian never expected us to be. Logan pulled out RF detectors, GPS trackers, and debugging equipment, tools he'd used overseas for counter-surveillance operations. We started with Eliza's car, which was still parked in the driveway. 20 minutes in, Logan called me over. Got something. He was crouched by the rear wheel well, holding a small black device about the size of a matchbox. A GPS tracker. Battery-powered. Real-time location monitoring. How long has this been here? I asked. Logan checked the serial number on his phone. This model? Battery lasts about 2 weeks before needing a recharge. If he's been tracking her for months, he's been coming back regularly to swap it out or recharge it. I stared at the device in his hand, rage building in my chest like a slow fire. Adrian had been under her car, in our driveway, close enough to touch her vehicle dozens of times. And we'd never known. Don't destroy it, Logan said, reading my mind. We document it, photograph it, and give it to Dominic. It's evidence. Or we use it against him. Logan looked up. What are you thinking? We leave it in place. Let Adrian think he's still tracking her. But Eliza's not driving this car anymore. She's at Morgan's. So we control what Adrian sees. We control where he thinks she is. I pulled out my phone and texted Morgan, "Don't let Eliza drive anywhere for the next few days. I'll explain later." We moved inside and swept the house next. No cameras. No bugs. But when Logan checked Eliza's phone, the one she'd left charging on the kitchen counter before she packed her go bag, he found something. Stalkerware, he said quietly, scrolling through hidden files. Installed 8 months ago. He's been reading every text, tracking every call, seeing every photo. He knows everyone she's been talking to, everywhere she's been. 8 months. The same time the harassment started. The same time she got engaged. Can we remove it without him knowing? Better than that. We can feed him false information. Make him think she's still using the phone. Send fake texts. Fake locations. Let him wherever we want him to go. Logan handed the phone back to me. But first, we screenshot everything. This software is illegal to install without consent. It's a felony in most states. Combined with the tracker and the assault, Adrian's looking at serious time. I took the phone and stared at it. This small device had been Adrian's window into our lives for months. He'd seen our engagement photos, our ultrasound pictures, private conversations between me and Eliza. He'd known every moment of our happiness, and it had driven him insane with jealousy. We need to tell Eliza, I said. Not yet. Let her have a few days of peace at Morgan's. Once we move on Adrian, she'll need to know everything. But right now, let her rest. Let her feel safe. Logan started packing up his equipment. Tomorrow, we start phase 2. Surveillance. We watch him the way he's been watching you. We document everything. And when he makes his next move, and he will, we'll be ready. That night, I drove to Morgan's apartment across town. She lived in a secured building with a doorman and cameras, safer than our house with a busted front door. Eliza was asleep on the couch when I arrived, one hand resting on her belly, her face still bruised but peaceful. Morgan met me at the door, arms crossed, fury in her eyes. I want to kill him myself. Get in line. I'm serious, Hunter. Eliza's been my best friend since we were kids. I knew something was wrong these past few months, but she wouldn't tell me. She just kept saying she was stressed about the pregnancy. Morgan's voice cracked. I should have pushed harder. This isn't on you. Adrian's a professional manipulator. He isolated her, made her think she had to handle it alone. I glanced at Eliza sleeping. How is she? Scared. Exhausted. She cried for 2 hours after Logan dropped her off. Then she finally crashed. Morgan lowered her voice. She told me everything. About college. About how bad it was back then. I had no idea, Hunter. She never said a word. She's good at hiding pain. Too good. Morgan looked at me hard. What are you going to do? Whatever it takes to keep her safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got right now. I handed her a new phone, one Logan had picked up, clean and uncompromised. Give this to Eliza when she wakes up. Tell her not to use her old phone. I'll explain why later. Before I left, I sat beside Eliza on the couch and brushed hair away from her face. She stirred slightly, eyes fluttering open. Hunter, I'm here. You're safe. She reached for my hand. Did you find anything? I could have lied. Could have told her not to worry. But she deserved the truth. He's been tracking you. GPS on your car. Software on your phone. He's known your location for months. The fear that flashed across her face broke something in me. He was always watching. Not anymore. We found everything. We're controlling the information now. He thinks he's still tracking you, but he's not. We're going to use it against him. I squeezed her hand. This ends soon. I promise. I'm tired of being afraid. I know, but you won't be afraid much longer. Because Adrian made a mistake. He thought you were alone. He didn't know you had me. He didn't know you had Logan and Dominic and Morgan. He thought fear would keep you silent. I leaned down and kissed her forehead. He was wrong. She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. I love you. I love you too. Now sleep. Let me handle this. When I left Morgan's building, my phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. Security footage from your neighbor's camera. Got a clear shot of Adrian's truck yesterday morning. License plate visible. Running it now. Then another text. This one from an unknown number. Adrian, tell your little cop friend to stop sniffing around. This is between me and Eliza. Walk away while you still can. I read it twice. Saved it. Forwarded it to Dominic. Then I replied with 2 words. Come find me. Because Adrian wanted a fight. And I was about to give him one he'd never forget. The next morning, I woke up on my own couch feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My neck ached from sleeping at an odd angle, my mind racing with plans I couldn't shut off. Coffee helped. Barely. Logan showed up at 7 with breakfast sandwiches and a duffel bag full of surveillance equipment. Dominic came through, Logan said, dropping the bag on the kitchen table. Adrian's truck was spotted on 3 different traffic cameras yesterday between your house and the downtown area. He circled your block 4 times before he finally left. 4 times. He'd been hunting, watching, waiting for another opportunity. What's his schedule today? I asked. Logan pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot of Adrian's business page. He's got landscaping jobs booked from 9 to 3 for different houses on the north side. All residential. All wealthy neighborhoods where people don't pay attention to workers. Perfect cover. He blends in. No one questions why he's there. I finished my coffee and grabbed my jacket. We shadow him. Document everywhere he goes. If he deviates from his schedule, we need to know why. We spent the morning following Adrian from a distance. He drove a white truck with his company logo on the side, Voss Landscaping. Professional looking. Clean. The kind of vehicle that disappears into suburban neighborhoods. We watched him mow lawns, trim hedges, rake leaves. He looked normal. Harmless. Just another working guy trying to make a living. But I knew better. Guys like Adrian were experts at wearing masks. Around noon, Adrian finished his 3rd job, and instead of driving to his 4th client, he took a detour, headed east toward the medical district. My pulse quickened. Where's he going? Logan muttered from the passenger seat. We followed at a safe distance, 3 cars back, never letting him out of sight. Adrian pulled into the parking lot of Women's Health Associates, the clinic where Eliza had her prenatal appointments. Son of a... Logan didn't finish the sentence. Adrian parked across the street from the clinic entrance and just sat there, watching, waiting, like he expected Eliza to walk out at any moment. He didn't know she wasn't using that clinic anymore. Didn't know we'd switched her to a different doctor across town after the break-in. He's hunting, I said quietly. He thinks she's still following her regular schedule. Logan pulled out a camera with a telephoto lens and started snapping photos. How long do we let him sit there? As long as it takes. We need documentation. Pattern of behavior. This is stalking. This is harassment. This is exactly what we need to prove he's a threat. Adrian sat in that parking lot for 45 minutes, watching women walk in and out of the clinic, checking his phone, looking around nervously. He was getting agitated, frustrated that Eliza wasn't showing up. Finally, he drove away. But instead of going back to work, he headed south, toward Morgan's apartment building. My blood turned to ice. He knows where she is, Logan said. No, he can't. We swept her car. We gave her a clean phone. There's no way he... I stopped. Thought back. Her mother. What? Eliza's mother, Paige. She knows Morgan's address. What if she told Adrian? The pieces started clicking together. Eliza had mentioned her mother never approved of me. Never liked that Eliza moved on from her past. What if Paige had been feeding Adrian information this whole time? We followed Adrian to Morgan's building. He parked down the block, got out of his truck, and walked toward the entrance. But the building had a doorman and security cameras. Adrian stood outside for a few minutes, pretending to look at his phone, then walked back to his truck. He didn't leave, just sat there, watching the building. Call Morgan, Logan said. Make sure they're not going anywhere today. I dialed. Morgan picked up on the second ring. Hunter, is Eliza with you right now? Yeah, she's in the shower. Why? What's wrong? Don't let her leave the apartment. Don't go outside. Lock the doors and keep the curtains closed. Hunter, you're scaring me. Adrian's outside your building right now. He's been sitting there for 10 minutes. Silence. Then, how does he know where I live? I'm working on that. Just stay inside. I'll handle this. I hung up and looked at Logan. We need to confront him. Right now? Before he does something stupid. Bad idea. If you approach him, he can claim harassment. Play the victim. We lose the upper hand. I don't care about the upper hand anymore. He's outside the building where my pregnant fiancée is trying to feel safe. That ends now. Logan grabbed my arm before I could open the door. Hunter, think. You go over there. You lose control. You put hands on him. He presses charges. You get arrested. Then who protects Eliza? Use your head. I hated that he was right. Hated every rational word coming out of his mouth. But he was right. So instead of confronting Adrian, I called Dominic. I need patrol cars at Morgan's building. Now, Adrian Voss is stalking my fiancée, and he's sitting outside her location right now. Dominic didn't hesitate. Address. I gave it to him. How fast can you get someone here? 10 minutes. Maybe less. Stay in your vehicle. Do not engage. 8 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up to Morgan's building. Adrian saw them immediately, started his truck. But before he could drive away, one of the officers walked over and tapped on his window. Logan and I watched from down the block as Adrian rolled down his window, smiling, playing innocent. The officer talked to him for a few minutes, checked his ID, walked back to the patrol car to run his information. Adrian sat there, calm and collected, like he had nothing to hide. My phone rang. Dominic. Officers are talking to him now. He's claiming he was just taking a lunch break in the area. Says he doesn't know anyone in that building. He's lying. He's been sitting there for 20 minutes watching the entrance. I know, but watching a building isn't illegal. Not without proof of intent. The best we can do right now is document the encounter and make it clear he's being watched. If he comes back, we have grounds for escalation. I watched as the officer handed Adrian back his ID and waved him off. Adrian drove away slowly, casually, like he had all the time in the world. Like this was just a minor inconvenience. He's not scared, Logan said. He thinks he's untouchable. Then we make him scared. That afternoon, after Adrian finally went back to work, Logan and I regrouped at my house. Dominic stopped by with updates. He'd pulled Adrian's full background, every address, every job, every relationship that ended badly. The pattern was clear. Adrian had stalked at least 3 women before Eliza. Always the same tactics. Always escalating. Always getting away with it because his victims either dropped charges or moved away before it went to trial. Why does he keep getting away with it? I asked. Because he's smart. He never makes overt threats. Never puts anything in writing that can't be explained away as romantic gestures or misunderstandings. He knows exactly how far he can push before crossing legal lines. He crossed the line when he broke into my house and put his hands on Eliza. Yeah, and that's our opening. The assault charge will stick. The restraining order will go through. But you need to be patient. Let the system work. The system didn't work for his other victims. Dominic sighed. I know, but this time is different. This time he assaulted a pregnant woman in her own home. This time there are witnesses, evidence, and a victim who's willing to testify. We can bury him, but only if you don't do something that ruins the case. My phone buzzed. A text from Eliza. He was outside Morgan's building. I saw him from the window before the police came. Hunter, I'm terrified. What if he gets inside? What if he hurts Morgan? I texted back. He won't. I promise. Stay inside. I'm working on this. But even as I sent it, I knew promises weren't enough anymore. Adrian was escalating. He'd gone from texts and emails to showing up at her clinic to camping outside her sister's building. Next step? He'd try to get inside. Try to get to her face to face. That night, I sat in the dark living room staring at the boarded-up front door and made a decision. I was done playing defense. Done waiting for Adrian to make the next move. It was time to set a trap. I texted Logan. Tomorrow, we bait him. Make him think Eliza's vulnerable. Make him come to us on our terms. Logan replied, "What's the plan?" "I'll explain in person, but we're going to give Adrian exactly what he wants. And when he takes the bait, we'll be waiting." Because Adrian thought he was the hunter, but he was about to learn what it felt like to be prey. Logan arrived at dawn with coffee and a plan sketched on the back of a napkin. We sat at my kitchen table going over every detail like we were planning a mission overseas. Because in a way we were. "We use Eliza's old phone," Logan said, pointing at the device sitting on the table between us. "The one with the stalkerware. We send texts from it making Adrian think she's coming back to the house to pick up clothes. Give him a specific time. Make it look real. And when he shows up, we document everything. Cameras rolling. Witnesses present. He violates the restraining order the second he steps on your property. Dominic's already got patrol on standby. The moment Adrian makes contact, we call it in." It was simple, clean, legal. Everything we needed to put Adrian away for good. I picked up Eliza's compromised phone and started typing a message to her sister Morgan, a message Adrian would see through the stalkerware. "Morgan, I need to go back to the house tomorrow around 2 p.m. to grab some of my maternity clothes. Can you drive me? Hunter will be at work." Logan watched over my shoulder. "Add more details. Make it believable." I kept typing. "I'm going crazy wearing the same 3 outfits. Plus I want to check on the nursery. I miss our house. I know Hunter doesn't want me there alone, but it'll only take 20 minutes. "Perfect," Logan said. "Now we wait and see if he takes the bait." We spent the rest of the morning setting up. Cameras positioned at every angle of the house. Audio recording devices hidden in the bushes near the front door. Logan called in 2 favors, guys from our old unit, who owed him and wouldn't ask questions. They'd be positioned in a vehicle down the block, watching everything. Dominic stopped by around noon to check the setup. He walked through the house, examined each camera angle, and nodded approval. "This'll hold up in court. Just make sure you don't engage with him physically unless he becomes an immediate threat. Let him hang himself." "What if he doesn't show?" I asked. "He'll show. Guys like Adrian can't help themselves. You're giving him exactly what he wants. Access to Eliza when she thinks she's vulnerable." At 1:30, everyone was in position. I sat in my truck parked 2 blocks away, watching the live camera feeds on my laptop. Logan was inside the house, hidden in the spare bedroom with a clear view of the living room and front entrance. 1:45. Nothing. 1:50. A white truck turned onto my street. Voss Landscaping printed on the side. "We've got movement." Logan's voice came through my earpiece. "White truck. That's him." Adrian drove past the house slowly, checking for cars in the driveway, checking the windows, checking if anyone was home. He circled the block once, then parked 3 houses down. "He's being cautious," I muttered. "He knows something could be wrong. Or he's just careful. Either way, he's here." That's step 1. Adrian sat in his truck for 5 minutes, just watching, waiting. Then he got out and walked toward my house, hands in his pockets, casual like he belonged there. He walked up the front steps and tried the door. Locked. He knocked. No answer. Then he did something I didn't expect. He pulled out his phone and made a call. A few seconds later, Eliza's old phone, the one sitting on my kitchen counter inside the house, started ringing. "He's calling her," Logan whispered through the earpiece. "The phone's ringing in here." Adrian waited. No answer. He hung up, looked around. Then he walked around to the side of the house, checking windows, looking for a way inside. That's trespassing. Dominic's voice came through. I'm calling patrol now. Wait, I said. Give him more time. Let him commit fully. Adrian moved to the back of the house. Tried the sliding glass door. Also locked. He stood there for a moment, clearly frustrated, then pulled something from his pocket. A screwdriver. He started working on the lock. He's trying to break in, Logan said, voice tight. That's breaking and entering. We've got him. Call it in, I told Dominic. 2 minutes later, sirens echoed in the distance. Adrian's head snapped up. He looked around, panicked, then bolted, ran back toward his truck just as 2 patrol cars rounded the corner. But he didn't make it. Officers intercepted him halfway down the block, guns drawn, shouting commands. Adrian raised his hands, playing innocent, shouting that he was just checking on the house for a friend. I drove up and parked across the street, watching as they cuffed him. His eyes found mine through the crowd. Pure hatred. He knew he'd been set up. Knew I'd outplayed him. Dominic walked over, grim satisfaction on his face. Got him on attempted breaking and entering. Plus violation of the restraining order. It was served this morning. He's done. Will it stick? With the video evidence? Absolutely. He's looking at jail time. Maybe not a lot, but enough to send a message. And now Eliza can breathe. I watched as they loaded Adrian into the back of the patrol car. He was still yelling, still trying to explain himself. But it didn't matter anymore. We had everything on camera. Every step he took. Every window he tried. Every second of criminal intent. Logan came out of the house, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Clean up. He never even saw us coming. Good. Now we make sure this sticks. I want him prosecuted to the fullest extent. That evening, I drove to Morgan's apartment to tell Eliza. She was sitting on the couch when I arrived, hands wrapped around a cup of tea, eyes tired but hopeful. It's over, I said quietly. Adrian's in custody. She stared at me, like she couldn't process the words. What happened? I explained everything. The trap. The cameras. Adrian trying to break in. His arrest. By the time I finished, tears were streaming down her face. Not from fear this time, but relief. Is he really going to jail? Dominic thinks so. We've got video evidence. Multiple charges. He's not walking away from this. She set down her tea and wrapped her arms around me, holding on like she'd drown if she let go. I can't believe it's actually over. It's over. You're safe now. Our baby's safe. But even as I said it, something nagged at me. A feeling I couldn't shake. Adrian had been too easy to catch. Too predictable. And that phone call he'd made right before trying to break in. Who had he called? 3 days after Adrian's arrest, I sat in Dominic's office reviewing the evidence we'd collected. Everything looked solid. Video footage of Adrian attempting to break in. Documentation of stalking behavior. Violation of the restraining order. The district attorney was confident they could get jail time, 6 months minimum, maybe a year if the judge took it seriously. But something still bothered me. That phone call Adrian made right before trying to break into my house. I hadn't been able to stop thinking about it. Dominic, can you pull Adrian's phone records from the day of his arrest? He looked up from his paperwork. Already requested them. Should have them by tomorrow. What? He called someone right before he tried breaking in. I want to know who. You think he had an accomplice? I don't know. But guys like Adrian don't operate in a vacuum. Someone's been helping him. Someone told him where Morgan lived. The next afternoon, Dominic called me. His voice was tight. Hunter, we need to talk. In person. Now. I met him at a coffee shop downtown. He slid a folder across the table, his expression grim. Phone records came back. You're not going to like this. I opened the folder. Scanned the highlighted entries. Adrian had made 4 calls in the hour before his arrest. 1 to his lawyer. 1 to his business partner. And 2 to the same number, a number I recognized. Eliza's mother. Paige. My blood turned cold. He called Paige. Twice. Once at 1:15. Once at 1:45, right before he approached your house. Dominic pulled out another sheet. But it gets worse. I pulled Paige's phone records too. She's been in contact with Adrian for 8 months. Dozens of calls. Hundreds of texts. 8 months. The exact time the stalking started. The exact time Eliza got engaged. She's been helping him this whole time, I said quietly. More than helping. She's been coordinating with him. Feeding him information about Eliza's schedule. Her location. Where she'd be vulnerable. Dominic leaned forward. Hunter, Paige gave Adrian the code to your security gate. She told him what time you'd be at the hardware store. She orchestrated the entire home invasion. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small. Too loud. I couldn't breathe. Eliza's own mother had set her up to be attacked. Had put her pregnant daughter in danger because, why? Because she didn't approve of me? Because she wanted Eliza back with Adrian? Does Eliza know? Not yet. I wanted to tell you first. Dominic hesitated. There's more. Text messages between Paige and Adrian show she's been manipulating Eliza for years. Sabotaging her relationships. Isolating her from friends. Classic narcissistic control patterns. Adrian was just her latest weapon. I stared at the phone records, rage building in my chest like a wildfire. What charges can we bring against her? Conspiracy. Aiding and abetting. Potentially accessory to assault. If we can prove she knew Adrian intended to harm Eliza, we can prosecute her alongside him. Do it. I want her arrested. Hunter, think about this. That's Eliza's mother. This is going to destroy her. Her mother already destroyed her. She put her own daughter's life at risk. She needs to face consequences. I drove straight to Morgan's apartment. Eliza was sitting on the balcony, one hand on her belly, watching the sunset. She looked peaceful for the first time in weeks. I hated that I was about to shatter that peace. Hunter? What's wrong? She saw my face and immediately stood up. We need to talk. Inside, Morgan joined us in the living room. I showed them both the phone records. Explained everything Dominic had found. Watched Eliza's face go from confusion to disbelief to absolute devastation. No, that's not possible. My mother wouldn't. She couldn't. Eliza's voice broke. The records don't lie. She's been in contact with Adrian since the beginning. She told him where you'd be, when you'd be alone. She gave him access to our home. Morgan's face had gone white. I knew Paige was controlling, but this is criminal. Eliza sank onto the couch, both hands pressed against her face. Why would she do this? I'm her daughter. Because you left. Because you built a life she couldn't control. Because you chose me over her approval. I knelt in front of her. Your mother is a narcissist. She'd rather see you hurt than see you happy without her. All those times she called asking where I was, what I was doing. She was reporting back to Adrian. Eliza's hands shook. She knew he was stalking me. She knew he broke into our house. And she did nothing. She did worse than nothing. She helped him. I took her hands. Dominic wants to arrest her. Press charges. But I wanted to talk to you first. This is your decision. Eliza looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. She put our baby in danger. I know. She let him hurt me. She wanted him to hurt me. I know. Eliza stood up slowly, wiping tears from her cheeks. When she spoke again, her voice was steel. Arrest her. I want her prosecuted. I want everyone to know what she did. 2 hours later, police arrested Paige at her home. She denied everything at first, claimed the phone calls were innocent, that she was just trying to help Adrian and Eliza reconcile. But when confronted with the text messages where she explicitly told Adrian when I'd be gone, when Eliza would be home alone, how to bypass the front door lock, she finally broke. She confessed to everything. How she'd reached out to Adrian months ago after seeing Eliza's engagement announcement. How she'd convinced him that Eliza still loved him, that I was the problem. How she'd fed him information systematically, escalating his obsession until he finally snapped and attacked. I just wanted her to see that you weren't right for her, Paige told the detectives, according to the report Dominic showed me later. Adrian was stable, successful, from a good family. But she threw him away for some military nobody. Some military nobody. That's what I was to her. Not the man who loved her daughter. Not the father of her grandchild. Just an obstacle to her control. That night, I held Eliza while she cried. Not for her mother, but for the mother she'd always wanted and never had. For the family she'd hoped for and would never have. I don't understand how a mother could do this, she whispered against my chest. Some people can't love beyond themselves. Your mother's one of them. I kissed the top of her head. But you're not alone. You've got Morgan. You've got me. You've got our baby. We're your family now. What happens next? Next, they both go to trial. Both get what they deserve. And we move forward. But even as I said it, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were missing something. Something bigger. Because Paige's confession felt too easy. Too complete. Like she was taking the fall for someone else. The week after Paige's arrest felt surreal. Eliza moved through each day in a fog, processing the betrayal in waves. Some moments she'd seem fine, laughing at something Morgan said. Other moments I'd find her staring at nothing, tears streaming silently down her face. I keep thinking about all the times she called, Eliza said one evening, curled up on Morgan's couch. Every conversation where she asked about my day, my appointments, where I'd be. I thought she cared. I thought she was finally trying to be a real mother. Morgan sat beside her, holding her hand. She was never a real mother. Not to either of us. We just didn't want to see it. You saw it, Eliza said quietly. You moved out at 18 and barely looked back. I kept trying. Kept hoping she'd change. Morgan's expression hardened. I saw it because I was the scapegoat. You were her golden child until you did the unforgivable. You chose your own life. That's when she turned on you. I'd been researching narcissistic mothers since Paige's arrest, trying to understand the psychology behind what she'd done. The patterns were all there. The manipulation. The control disguised as concern. The inability to see her children as separate people with their own needs and desires. She couldn't stand that you were happy without her approval, I said. That you built something real with someone she didn't choose for you. So she tried to destroy it. Eliza wiped her eyes. Adrian wasn't random, was he? She picked him specifically because she knew he'd be willing to terrorize me. Adrian was obsessed with you already. She just weaponized that obsession. I sat down on the coffee table facing her. But she made a mistake. She underestimated how strong you are. The preliminary hearing was set for 2 weeks out. Both Adrian and Paige would face a judge. Dominic said the evidence was overwhelming. They'd both likely accept plea deals rather than risk trial. But 3 days before the hearing, Logan called me with news that changed everything. Hunter, I've been digging into Paige's finances. Something doesn't add up. What do you mean? She's been receiving wire transfers. Large amounts. $20,000 over the past 8 months. All from the same offshore account. My stomach dropped. Someone was paying her. Looks like it. I'm trying to trace the account, but it's buried under shell companies. Whoever set this up knew what they were doing. Who would pay Paige to help Adrian stalk Eliza? But even as I asked the question, pieces started clicking into place. Unless it wasn't about Adrian at all. What are you thinking? I'm thinking Paige is taking the fall for someone else. Someone who wanted Eliza hurt. Someone with money and motivation. I called Dominic immediately. Told him about the wire transfers. Within hours, he had a forensic accountant tracing the money. 2 days later, they had an answer. The offshore account belonged to a holding company registered in the Cayman Islands. The holding company was owned by Victor Reeves, Eliza's father, the man who'd supposedly died in a car accident 7 years ago. That's impossible, Eliza said when I told her. My father is dead. I went to his funeral. I saw. You saw a closed casket, Morgan interrupted quietly. We never actually saw a body. Eliza stared at her sister. Are you saying he faked his death? Dominic laid out the evidence on Morgan's dining table. Financial records. Passport stamps showing someone using Victor's identity traveling through Europe and South America. Property purchases. Bank accounts. 7 years of a life lived in hiding. Why would he do this? Eliza's voice was barely a whisper. Why would he let us think he was dead? I pulled the police report from his supposed accident, Dominic said. There were discrepancies even then. The car went off a cliff into water. They never recovered a body, just assumed he died. But his business was under federal investigation at the time. Fraud. Embezzlement. He was looking at 20 years in prison. So he faked his death to avoid prison, I said. And he's been living off stolen money ever since. But why come after Eliza now? Morgan asked. Why wait 7 years? Dominic pulled out another document. Because 3 months ago, the statute of limitations on his crimes expired. He's legally in the clear. He could come back, reclaim his identity, access accounts that were frozen. But there was one problem. Eliza, I said, understanding flooding in. She inherited everything when he died. His legitimate assets. His properties. His life insurance. Exactly. If Victor comes back from the dead, Eliza has legal claim to everything. She could expose him, ruin his second chance at freedom. So he needed her discredited, unstable, traumatized to the point where no one would believe her if she tried to challenge his return. Eliza stood up, pacing the room. He paid my mother to help Adrian terrorize me. He wanted me broken, destroyed, maybe even dead, Morgan finished. If you died, he'd have no obstacles. No one who could challenge his identity or his claims. The room fell silent. Eliza's own father had orchestrated her stalking, had paid her mother to betray her, had been willing to let her die just to protect his stolen life. Where is he now? I asked Dominic. We're tracking him. Last known location was Mexico City 2 weeks ago. He's been moving around, but we'll find him. Eliza sank back onto the couch, both hands on her belly. My entire family. My mother. My father. They both wanted me destroyed. Morgan knelt in front of her. Not your entire family. You have me. You have Hunter. You have your baby. We're your family now. And we're going to make sure Victor faces justice. I added. He doesn't get to disappear again. He doesn't get to destroy your life and walk away. That night, I held Eliza while she processed the magnitude of the betrayal. Not just from her mother, but from both parents. People who should have protected her had systematically tried to destroy her. I don't understand how people can be this evil, she whispered. They're not people. They're predators. And predators only care about their own survival. Within 48 hours of discovering Victor's involvement, federal authorities joined the investigation. What started as a local stalking case had become interstate fraud, conspiracy, and attempted murder. The FBI took over coordination while Dominic remained our local contact. Victor made his first mistake. The lead FBI agent, Special Agent Natalie Cross, explained during a briefing at Dominic's precinct. He got greedy, started moving money around to prepare for his return. That activity flagged in our financial monitoring systems. She spread photos across the conference table. Victor at a cafe in Buenos Aires. Victor boarding a private plane in Panama. Victor meeting with a lawyer in the Cayman Islands. He looked older, grayer, but unmistakably alive. When can you arrest him? I asked. We're working with international partners. He's currently in Mexico, but he moves frequently. We have surveillance on him now. When he crosses back into U.S. territory, we'll take him into custody. Natalie looked at Eliza, who sat beside me, pale but composed. I know this is overwhelming, but you're the key to prosecuting him. Your testimony about the inheritance, the timeline, the family dynamics, it all builds the case. Eliza nodded slowly. What about my mother? Paige is cooperating. She's provided detailed testimony about Victor's instructions, the payments, how he manipulated her into helping Adrian. In exchange for her cooperation, the DA is offering a reduced sentence, 5 years instead of 20. That's not enough, I said. It's reality, Natalie replied. We need her testimony to convict Victor. Without it, he could argue he had no knowledge of what Adrian did. Paige is the direct link. The preliminary hearing for Adrian happened first. He stood before Judge Tristan Coleman, looking smaller somehow. Defeated. His lawyer argued for leniency, claimed Adrian was manipulated by Paige, that he was a victim too. But the evidence was overwhelming. Video of the break-in attempt. The stalking documentation. The assault on Eliza. Judge Coleman wasn't buying it. Mr. Voss, you systematically terrorized a pregnant woman for months. You violated a restraining order within hours of it being served. You attempted to break into her home with clear intent to harm. The court finds you guilty on all counts. Adrian was sentenced to 3 years in prison, followed by 5 years probation and a permanent restraining order. Not as much as I wanted, but enough to keep him away from Eliza. Paige's hearing was harder to watch. She stood in her orange jumpsuit, looking frail and broken. She tried to make eye contact with Eliza, but Eliza stared straight ahead, refusing to acknowledge her. When given the chance to speak, Paige turned to Eliza. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought Victor knew what was best for our family. You thought wrong." Eliza interrupted, her voice steady and cold. "You chose money and control over your daughter's safety. You don't get to call that protection." Paige accepted the plea deal. 5 years in a federal facility. She'd be in her 60s when she got out. By then, Eliza's baby would be starting school. 2 weeks later, federal agents arrested Victor as he crossed the border from Mexico into Texas. He'd been trying to access a storage unit in El Paso where he'd hidden documents and cash before faking his death. His arraignment was scheduled for the following month. Natalie warned us it would be a media circus. Wealthy businessman fakes death, terrorizes daughter, conspiracy to commit murder. The story had everything reporters loved. "Are you ready for this?" I asked Eliza the night before we had to give depositions. She placed my hand on her belly, where our baby was kicking. "I'm ready, because he doesn't get to win. He doesn't get to hide anymore. And our daughter deserves to grow up knowing her mother fought back." The courthouse was packed the day of Victor's arraignment. News crews lined the steps outside. Reporters shouted questions as we pushed through the crowd, Dominic and Logan flanking us like bodyguards. Eliza kept her head down, one hand on her belly, the other gripping mine. Inside, we sat in the front row behind the prosecutor's table. Agent Natalie Cross sat beside us, reviewing her notes. Victor's lawyer is going to argue he had no direct involvement in the stalking. That Paige acted independently. We need to be ready for that. "But the wire transfers prove he paid her," I said. "They prove he sent money." His lawyer will claim it was support for his ex-wife, not payment for criminal activity. That's why Paige's testimony is crucial. The bailiff called the court to order. Everyone rose as Judge Tristan Coleman entered, the same judge who'd sentenced Adrian. He took his seat and gestured for everyone else to sit. Then the side door opened, and Victor Reeves walked in. Beside me, Eliza's entire body went rigid. I squeezed her hand, but she didn't seem to notice. She was staring at the man she'd mourned for 7 years. The father who'd chosen money over his daughters. Who'd orchestrated her terrorization from thousands of miles away. Victor looked different from the photos. Thinner. Harder. His hair was completely gray now, his face weathered. But his eyes, cold, calculating. Those were exactly as Eliza described them. He scanned the courtroom, and his gaze landed on Eliza. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Regret? Guilt? But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by blank indifference. The arraignment proceeded. Victor's lawyer, a slick corporate attorney named Preston Clark, entered a not guilty plea and requested bail. The prosecutor, District Attorney Ruby Martinez, argued against it. Flight risk. Sophisticated network of false identities. History of evading law enforcement. Judge Coleman denied bail. Victor showed no reaction. But as they let him out, Victor stopped. Turned toward Eliza. "I'm sorry you got caught in the middle of this." Caught in the middle. Like she was collateral damage. Like he hadn't orchestrated the entire thing. Eliza stood up, her voice cutting through the courtroom. "You tried to have me killed. Your own daughter. For money." Victor's expression didn't change. "You don't understand the pressure I was under. The choices I had to make. I understand perfectly. You're a coward who chose yourself over everything else. Over your family. Over basic human decency." "Ms. Reeves, please sit down," Judge Coleman said, but his tone was gentle. Eliza sat, trembling. I wrapped my arm around her as they finally took Victor away. The trial was set for 3 months out. Natalie said it was fast-tracked due to the severity of charges and media attention. In the meantime, we waited, prepared, tried to build some semblance of normal life. But 2 weeks before trial, everything changed. Natalie called me at 6 in the morning. "We have a problem." Paige recanted her testimony. What? What? She's claiming she lied to get a better deal. Says Victor never asked her to help Adrian. Says she acted alone out of her own twisted motivations. That's insane. We have the wire transfers, the phone records, which Victor's lawyers now claim were legitimate financial support. Without Paige's testimony linking the money to the conspiracy, our case gets weaker. I sat down hard on the couch. Someone got to her. Victor must have threatened her or promised her something. We think so too, but we can't prove it. She's in federal custody. She shouldn't have had contact with Victor or his people, but these guys have resources. That night, Logan came over. We sat in my living room, now with a new reinforced door, trying to figure out angles. What if we can prove Victor contacted Paige? Logan asked. How? She's in federal prison. All communications are monitored. All official communications. But what if someone visited her? A lawyer? A family member? Someone who carried a message? I pulled out my phone and called Dominic. Can you get visitor logs for Paige? Everyone who's seen her in the past month. I'll request them. Give me a few hours. By morning, we had our answer. Paige had one visitor 2 weeks ago. A lawyer named Quinn Ashford, but not her lawyer. Quinn worked for Preston Clark's firm. Victor's defense team had sent someone to flip Paige. Is that legal? Eliza asked when we showed her the evidence. Technically, yes, Natalie explained. They can argue they were exploring potential conflicts of interest or offering legal advice. But the timing is suspicious as hell. If we can prove they coached her to recant, that's witness tampering. The prosecution filed motions, requested interviews with Quinn Ashford, demanded phone records from the prison. Victor's team fought back with their own motions and delays. The trial date got pushed back another month. But then we caught a break. One of the prison guards came forward, said he'd overheard Quinn Ashford's conversation with Paige. That Quinn had explicitly told Paige to recant in exchange for Victor reducing her sentence through his connections when he was acquitted. With the guard's testimony, the prosecution had grounds to reinstate Paige's original statement and charge Victor with witness tampering. His bail denial was reinforced, and the trial finally moved forward. This is really happening, Eliza said the night before trial began. He's finally going to face consequences. He is, and you're going to be there to see it. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Every day, the courtroom filled with reporters, spectators, and family members of Victor's other victims. People who came forward once they learned he was alive. Women he'd manipulated. Business partners he'd defrauded. A whole trail of destruction spanning decades. District Attorney Ruby Martinez built her case methodically. Financial records showing the wire transfers to Paige. Phone logs proving coordination. The guard's testimony about Quinn Ashford's conversation with Paige. Adrian's testimony, he'd cut his own deal, admitting Victor had reached out to him through Paige with promises of money if he scared Eliza enough to reconsider her life choices. Victor Reeves didn't just fake his death to avoid prosecution, Ruby told the jury during opening statements. He orchestrated a campaign of terror against his own daughter because she stood in the way of his comfortable new life. He weaponized her mother. He manipulated a dangerous man's obsession, and he very nearly succeeded in destroying an innocent woman and her unborn child. Victor's lawyer, Preston Clark, tried to paint him as a desperate man making poor choices under pressure. My client made mistakes. He ran when he should have faced his problems. But wanting his daughter out of the way legally, through manipulation of inheritance law, is not the same as conspiracy to commit violence. But the evidence was overwhelming. Text messages between Victor and Paige discussing breaking Eliza's spirit and making her too unstable to challenge anything legally. Payments timed perfectly with Adrian's escalations. And most damning, A recorded conversation between Victor and his lawyer from prison where Victor discussed loose ends that needed to be handled permanently. Eliza testified on day 14. 8 months pregnant now. She walked to the witness stand with her head high. I sat in the front row, Logan and Morgan on either side of me, watching her face her father in front of the world. Ruby walked her through everything. Her childhood with Victor, the fear she felt when he controlled every aspect of their lives, the relief when he died, the joy of finally building her own life, then the nightmare of Adrian's stalking and the ultimate betrayal when she learned her own parents had orchestrated it. What do you want people to understand about your father? Ruby asked. Eliza looked directly at Victor. I want them to understand that he's not a victim of circumstance. He's a predator who spent his entire life manipulating people for his own gain. And when his own daughter became an obstacle, he tried to eliminate her. That's not desperation. That's evil. Preston Clark tried to shake her testimony during cross-examination, suggested she was motivated by anger over inheritance, implied she exaggerated the danger. But Eliza didn't break. I don't care about the money, she said firmly. I never did. I just wanted a father who loved me. Instead, I got a monster who saw me as collateral damage. The witness tampering charge against Victor added another layer. The prosecution proved that Quinn Ashford had visited Paige on Victor's instructions, offering her a reduced sentence through Victor's connections if she recanted. Witness tampering is not just illegal, Judge Coleman instructed the jury. It strikes at the very heart of our justice system. When someone attempts to corrupt the truth through intimidation or bribery, they commit an offense against justice itself. On day 21, both sides rested. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. When they returned, the foreperson stood. On the charge of conspiracy to commit assault, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of fraud and embezzlement, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of witness tampering, we find the defendant guilty. Guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Reporters rushed out to file stories. Victims hugged each other, crying. Eliza leaned against me, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Victor showed no emotion as they read the verdict. Just stared straight ahead, empty. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Coleman reviewed the evidence, the impact statements, the long history of Victor's crimes. Mr. Reeves, you have shown a complete disregard for human life, including that of your own daughter. You manipulated, intimidated, and destroyed without remorse. This court sentences you to 30 years in federal prison for conspiracy and fraud, an additional 10 years for witness tampering, to be served consecutively. 40 years total, with no possibility of parole. 40 years. Victor was 63. He'd die in prison. As they led him away, Victor finally looked at Eliza one last time. She met his gaze without flinching. Then he was gone. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us with questions. Dominic and Logan ran interference while I guided Eliza through the crowd. Agent Natalie stood at the microphone handling the press conference. That evening, we gathered at Morgan's apartment, our chosen family. Logan and Dominic. Morgan and her girlfriend Clara. Even Natalie stopped by. We ordered pizza and sat around talking about anything except the trial. What happens now? Morgan asked. With all of Victor's assets? The court appointed a trustee to sort it out, Eliza explained. Whatever was legitimately earned before his crimes goes to his creditors and victims. The stolen money gets returned to those he defrauded. What's left, if anything, gets divided according to his original will. But honestly, I don't want any of it. It's blood money, Morgan agreed. We'll donate whatever comes to organizations that help stalking victims and children of narcissistic parents, I said. Turn something evil into something that helps people. Eliza smiled for the first time in weeks. I like that. Later, when everyone had left and it was just the two of us, Eliza placed my hand on her belly. Our daughter kicked against my palm. She's going to grow up knowing the truth, Eliza said quietly. About her grandparents. About what happened. But she's also going to grow up knowing that when bad things happen, you fight back. You don't let evil win. She's going to grow up knowing she's loved. I added, that's what matters most. Yeah, that's what matters most. 3 months after the trial ended, our daughter was born on a sunny April morning. We named her Grace, because after everything we'd been through, Grace was exactly what we needed. Grace for healing, grace for moving forward, grace for becoming the family we chose to be. The delivery room was filled with the people who mattered. Morgan held Eliza's hand through every contraction. Logan paced in the corner like an anxious uncle. Dominic brought coffee for everyone at 3 a.m. when labor started. And when Grace finally arrived, crying and perfect in hours, I understood what it meant to protect something with your entire being. She has your eyes, Eliza whispered, exhausted but smiling as she held our daughter for the first time. She has your strength, I replied, kissing her forehead. We brought Grace home to a new house, one without bad memories, without broken doors or shadows of violence. A house filled with light and laughter and the sound of a baby discovering the world. Morgan lived 2 blocks away now. Logan visited every weekend. Dominic stopped by with casseroles his wife made, claiming he was just checking in, but really wanting to hold the baby. Agent Natalie sent a gift basket with a card that read, "To the little girl who survived before she was even born. May your life be filled with peace." We never heard from Victor again. He was serving his 40 years in a federal facility across the country. The state had seized all his assets. After restitution to his victims and legal fees, there was nothing left. No inheritance, no blood money, just the closure of knowing he couldn't hurt anyone anymore. Paige wrote letters from prison. Long, rambling letters full of apologies and excuses and requests to meet Grace when she got out. Eliza read the first one, then threw the rest away unopened. I used to think family meant blood. Eliza said one evening as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Grace sleeping in her arms, that you owed loyalty to the people who raised you no matter what they did. And now? I asked. Now I know family is what you build. It's the people who show up when things fall apart, who protect you instead of destroying you, who choose you every single day. She looked at me with those eyes that had seen too much pain but refused to let it win. You're my family. Grace is my family. Morgan, Logan, Dominic, they're my family. Everyone else was just biology. Biology doesn't make you a parent. Love does. Exactly. As Grace grew, we made sure she knew her story. Age appropriately, carefully, honestly. Not to burden her with trauma, but to teach her that surviving doesn't make you weak. Fighting back doesn't make you vengeful. And choosing peace after violence doesn't mean the violence won. On her first birthday, we threw a party in our backyard. Everyone who'd stood by us through the nightmare came. Kids ran around chasing bubbles. Adults laughed and ate too much cake. For a few hours, it was just normal. Just joy. Logan pulled me aside as the party wound down. You did good, brother. Kept your head. Played it smart. Got justice the right way. I almost didn't, I admitted. There were moments I wanted to handle Adrian myself. Handle Victor myself. Forget the law and just end it. But you didn't. That's what separates us from them. We know when to fight and when to let the system work. The system almost didn't work. But it did. Because you made sure it did. You documented everything. Built the case. Stayed patient. That's the real strength. Controlling the rage instead of letting it control you. Later that night, after everyone left and Grace was asleep in her crib, Eliza and I sat on the couch in comfortable silence. My training had taught me how to survive, how to fight, how to win. But Eliza had taught me what was worth fighting for. Do you ever think about what would have happened if Adrian had succeeded that first time? She asked quietly. If he'd hurt me worse? If you hadn't come home when you did? Every day? But we can't live in the what-ifs. We survived. We won. And now we get to build something beautiful from the wreckage. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm glad you were a Navy SEAL. I'm glad you knew how to fight smart instead of just fighting hard. I'm glad you didn't let rage make you into something you're not. I'm glad you were strong enough to testify, to face them, to choose healing over hatred. We make a good team, the best team. 6 months later, we started a nonprofit organization, Grace's Foundation, dedicated to helping stalking victims and survivors of family abuse. We partnered with lawyers who offered pro bono services, therapists who specialized in trauma, and security experts who helped victims protect themselves. Everything Victor and Paige tried to destroy, we turned into hope for others. Your parents tried to break you, I told Eliza at the foundation's grand opening. Instead, you became the person who helps others survive what you survived. That's the ultimate revenge, turning their evil into your purpose. She smiled, holding Grace on her hip. It's not revenge. It's justice. There's a difference. What's the difference? Revenge is about hurting them. Justice is about healing us. As I stood there watching Eliza speak to a room full of survivors, sharing her story with raw honesty and hard-won wisdom, I realized something. Adrian thought he could terrorize her into submission. Paige thought she could manipulate her into compliance. Victor thought he could eliminate her as an obstacle. They all underestimated who she was at her core. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a warrior. And warriors don't just survive. They transform their battles into something that protects others. That night, as we put Grace to bed, she looked up at us with those bright, curious eyes and smiled. No shadows, no fear, just pure, untainted joy. This is what we fought for, Eliza whispered. This moment, this peace, this life where our daughter never has to be afraid. And she never will be, because we'll make sure of it. Outside, the world kept turning. Somewhere, other people were facing their own nightmares, their own betrayals, their own battles with predators who thought they could win through fear and violence. But if our story taught me anything, it's that predators don't always win. Sometimes, the prey fights back. Sometimes, justice prevails. And sometimes, love is stronger than hate. We'd survived the worst thing we could imagine. And on the other side, we'd found something worth every scar, every sleepless night, every moment of terror. We'd found each other. We'd found family. We'd found peace. And that was worth everything. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to choose between revenge and justice? Between letting rage consume you or finding a smarter way to win? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And hey, do me a favor, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. What city? What country? I love knowing this story reached you wherever you are in the world. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more intense thriller and revenge stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Because I've got plenty more coming your way. Also, tell me in the comments, what kind of stories do you want to hear next? Military revenge? Family betrayal? Justice against all odds? Let me know what type of stories you love, and I'll bring you exactly what you're looking for. Until next time, take care of yourselves and the people you love. See you in the next epic revenge thriller. Stay safe out there.